What's going on, everyone? So, The Strangers, Chapter 1, I'm sure many of you have already heard, is a big disappointment. And many people are very upset and feel like this is very shot by shot remake. And you heard all the people involved. Oh, this isn't a remake. This isn't this. Like, we're doing our own thing. And then you watch it and it's like, okay, well, that was a lie, right? Hugh Morey, get him in, right? The lie detector test determined that was a lie. And look, I understand that this is supposed to be a setup, right? This is the setup film that leads you into the next two films. And they're just trying to kind of bring everybody and remind everybody. And here's kind of the framework and the foundation, kind of get through this film. But here's the problem, right? When you do stuff like that, you turn people off on the potential sequels, right? Because it's just like anything else. If I give you a free sample of something and you try it, and it's terrible, you're probably not going to purchase, that scoop or whatever, right? So the thing is like you've seen Hollywood continue to make this mistake over and over and over again. One, they just seem to love to just pump out these remakes, and then, they go, oh, no one's watching movies, and it's like, well, yeah, because you're just rehashing everything we've already seen. And then you try to label it as something different, but it is the same thing, or the movie's just not good. So it's like, where's the audience supposed to win, right? And then they don't want to take chances. And even I've gone down the rabbit hole and had the discussion. I'll even link that video down in the description. But I even did a whole talk and kind of rant about how, people talk about, they want originality, and Hollywood's kind of reluctant to do the originality route. And they're like, the argument is like, every time we make an original movie, nobody goes and watches it. And it's like, yeah, because it's terrible, right? Like, it's one of those things. If you build it, they will come, right? I'm not saying it's never happened, but very rarely does a really good movie that, consensus is like, hey, this was really good, bomb, right? Like, if you make a good movie, it's going to find its audience. It's just like anything. You make good content, it's going to find its audience, right? You make a good product, it's going to find its audience. That's the thing that Hollywood is missing. They just are pumping out these movies, just throwing a bunch of money at it and thinking that that's solving things. Some of the greatest movies ever have been on like shoestring budgets, right? It's not about the money. It's about, the story and the acting and the direction that you're planning on going. But I understand that this is supposed to be the first stepping block, right? This is supposed to be the foundational film that leads into the other films. But again, you have to still hit on that foundation film, right? And also, you're never going to succeed on these shot by shot, word by word type films. I mean, look at like the Cabin Fever remake. That film was literally, don't get me wrong, The Strangers Chapter 1 wasn't as bad as that Cabin Fever movie, but it wasn't that far off, right? Like the remake to Cabin Fever was literally a line by line, shot by shot remake. Like there was zero differences. I mean, every single point in that film was the exact same thing, exact same line, exact same phrase. Well, when you do stuff like that, you're not going to have a bunch of success because, again, we've already seen the movie. And what's everybody's complaint right now? We've already seen this movie, right? When you're talking about the Stranger Chapter 1. It's like I understand you want to, kind of pay homage and, have some similarities. That's fine. But you need to also separate and distinguish the two. Otherwise, you should have just made a direct sequel, right? Like remove, Pray at Night and just go, here's a direct sequel to the original. So you already got caught up to speed. Go rewatch the original and then let's go watch this new sequel and the remake because we have a different idea, different direction we want to go that we can't do if we piggyback off of Pray at Night. So Pray at Night can kind of be its own thing. And now you make these two other films. Or maybe you can make a trilogy latching off of that other one if you wanted to go that route. But even then, it's like you need to hit right. So another great example would be Halloween, the more recent trilogy, right? Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. Now, the trilogy as a whole was terrible. Halloween Ends was, there's some people that like it, and if you like it, great. But the general consensus, again, was like, that movie was trash. And David Gordon Green and everybody, like, they tried to do something different, and it just didn't land. Because it didn't make sense to what you set up and established. You kind of had this clear direction, this clear path, and then you decided to make a sharp left, and it was like, whoa, what are we doing here? Time out, right? And it just didn't add up. But they were already committed. They already had their trilogy lined up, which we're going to talk about that in a moment. Just trilogies in general, like Hollywood putting the cart before the horse. But again, like Halloween, this trilogy, the Halloween 18 was a great setup and establishment film, right? It had similarities. It had very reminiscent moments and one, it's Michael Myers and Halloween, right? There's only so many different directions you can go with that especially with all the films in the franchise, right? But still, like, that was a good establishment film, right? Like, you watched that movie and you were like, okay, great, I can't wait for the next one. You got to set the roots before the tree can grow, right? You got to plant the seed before the tree can grow. So when your establishment film is terrible, it doesn't give a lot of excitement and hope and, confidence for other films going forward. It just isn't. Right? So now you got a lot of people that are like, why should I watch part 2 and 3? Now there's going to be the curiosity factor of where they're going to go with this. How is this going to be different? Are these films going to be better? Like, what's going to happen? And there was that with Halloween, and Halloween Kills and then Halloween Ends. And Kills is kind of like, that split down the middle film. Half the side seems to love it. Half the side seems to hate it. But Halloween Ends was like you poop the bed. Sorry, trying to keep this, PG. But you look at what they did with Halloween and, again, kind of put the cart before the horse. Another great example, The Exorcist, The Believer. That movie was awful. The consensus was this movie was awful. So much so, they got rid of everybody. And they're supposed to make 2 more films. Like, they already committed to it. It's already ready to go. But it's another great example of you didn't establish, you decided to, 1, fall into the same trap of the remake, 2, but this one was, actual sequel, but still, like, the point is like, you put the cart before the horse and you failed to deliver. You overpromised and underdelivered. That's never a good formula. You underpromise and overdeliver. So if they would have made an excellent Exorcist film, which, let's be honest, like, remaking The Exorcist or making a direct sequel or requel, whatever, right, was never a great idea. The consensus to that was even like, here we go. Like, it's just, again, they want to keep pumping out this same rhetoric. It's literally the definition of insanity. You do something over and over and over again and expect a different result. Like, that's what Hollywood's doing. They keep doing the same cardinal rule over and over and over and over and over again and are expecting a different result. It's not happening. One, they aren't making good films. If Exorcist the Believer was just, and I'm not saying it had to be like groundbreaking or anything like that, but if it was just we've seen other good Exorcist films, right? Like, you look at things like Exorcism of Emily Rose comes to mind. It's like one that pops into my head, right? Like, that's something that you look at and you go, man, like, that was a really good film, right? Like, you could have done something similar, or like even taken some notes from The Conjuring. I understand that's not really like a, the devil type thing and, demonic and stuff, but you could have done something where it's like this family that's being haunted and tormented by demons, and, just gave you a good story, a good setup, a good establishment that maybe tied into the original slightly, and then you do what you wanted to do, and there you go, you're off to the races, right? That's something that maybe they could have gotten away with, and maybe that they could have done, but they didn't do that, and you failed on the first attempt, and now you're expecting me to believe that the next 2 are going to be great. Same thing with The Strangers Chapter 1. You failed on the first attempt, and now you're expecting me to believe and trust that you're going to do better going forward. And, don't worry, the other movies, this is just this. These other movies are going to be that. And it's like, well, this movie should have been that. Like, what are we doing here? And that's the issue. And I think a lot of this actually is Ty West and X's fault, right? A24 and them, because they took that. Hollywood's a copycat league, right? If something's successful, they follow. Everybody wants to do that next thing, right? You see it all the time. You get some, you get a demonic movie and all of a sudden everybody's making, like, why are there like 15, possession films coming out? And it's like, well, because the last one just made, 500 million at the box office or whatever, right? Like, everybody they want to try to ride these waves. And I think you had the establishment of X, right? And then it came out that, like, oh no, like the plan is like, no, they filmed actually 2 films, and you had, X, and then now you got Maxxxine, and, Pearl was the other film that, they shot X and Pearl together. And it was like, they A24 and Ty West and them, they absolutely put the cart before the horse, but they undersold and over-delivered, right? And again, this was a film that wasn't this huge advertised, big market, big budget, massive conglomerate. It wasn't. But guess what? It was a good movie, and it found its audience. X is a great example of what I've been trying to highlight in this film. Like, the marketing for X wasn't this huge abundance of, like, marketing. Like, there were people that didn't even know it was out until later. And people are, oh man, wait, what is this? X? Like, oh, that's interesting. But it was good, and people enjoyed it, and it found its audience. And then word of mouth spread. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, no, you love that one. Well, guess what? We have another one that we filmed at the same time. But they got it right. They understood the formula. They approached it properly. And, now you look at Hollywood and they're trying to copy and emulate that formula with Halloween and The Exorcist and The Strangers. And, they got all these other projects that, they keep putting the cart before the horse, but they're over-promising and under-delivering rather than underselling and over-delivering, right? Like, if the product's good, people will buy it. It's simple. I mean, it's sales 101. I mean, it's everything, right? If you make a good movie, people will buy it. People will find it, right? And again, I'm not saying that there's never been a great movie that, bombed in theaters and then later found its stride in its audience. But guess what? It still found its stride in its audience because it was a good movie. It just might have not have been promoted the right way, or it might have just, whatever. There was something that caused this hiccup. But as soon as you get to the audience and they get to watch it, and then they get to be the judge of public appeal, right? Like, all of a sudden, boom, it hits its stride, and now you see these films that become classics and cult classics and all this stuff because it was a good movie. It's the problem. Hollywood is not making good movies, and they're under-delivering, and over-promising, and it's been a disaster. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are you somewhere in between? Now, what did you think of The Strangers Chapter 1? Do you at least have this curiosity going forward for these films? What do you think of how the kind of situation Hollywood's in right now? Again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are. Love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.